Welcome to Friends in Fiction, 5 best-selling authors and the stories. Novelists Mary K. Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, Patti Callahan Henry, and Mary Alice Monroe are 5 longtime friends with more than 80 published books to their credit. In 2020, they created Friends in Fiction to provide author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, and to highlight independent bookstores. These friends discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday for a special Behind the Book episode of Friends and Fiction. I'm Kristin Harmel.
I'm Patti Callahan Henry.
I'm Mary K. Andrews.
And this is Friends in Fiction. And not only is it Friends in Fiction, it's a shorter, more intimate bonus episode where we really get to take an inside look at something related to the writing process, a bit of a deeper dive into the world behind our favorite books. We're missing both Mary Alice Monroe and Kristy Woodson Harvey tonight, so it feels a little strange to be doing this with just the 3 of us. This is actually weird. I think it's the first time it's just been the 3 of us. But you guys, tonight, you're going to be so caught up in hearing from our fascinating guest that you may not actually notice that even the 3 of us are here. Because tonight, we are joined by the spectacular Dr. Nguyen Phan Quay Mai, the author of The Mountains Sing, which the New York Times Book Review calls an absorbing, stirring novel that in more than one sense remedies history.
But before we dive into this beautiful book, let's take a moment to thank our partners, Mama Geraldine's and Page One Book Subscriptions. We adore them both, and the code FAB5 will get you a discount on both mamageraldines.com and pageonebooks.com. We'll be telling you more about them later in the show. And we'll also be telling you about our bookstore of the week, Booktown in Manasquan, New Jersey, where you can get 10% off all of our new and upcoming releases, including The Mountains Sing. Also, Kristy's brand new book, Under the Southern Sky. My novel, The Newcomer, which will be out just in time for Mother's Day. But now, back to our wonderful guest, and we are so looking forward to talking to her.
We are so excited. NPR calls The Mountains Sing a luminous, complex family narrative that spans nearly a century of Vietnamese history. That sounds extraordinary, right? But what's even more extraordinary is Quay Mai herself, born in a small village in the north of Vietnam in 1973 during the Vietnam War. That just gives me chills. Quay Mai migrated with her family to the Mekong Delta in the south of Vietnam when she was 6 years old.
She didn't begin learning English until she was in the 8th grade, but yet she wrote The Mountains Sing, her very first novel in English. And how she accomplished that, it just floors me. Now she is the first Vietnamese citizen whose novel in English has been published to international acclaim. Her 8 books of poetry, short fiction, and nonfiction in Vietnamese have received some of Vietnam's top literary awards, including the 2010 Poetry of the Year Award from the Hanoi Writers Association, the Capital's Literature and Arts Award, and the first prize in the poetry competition celebrating 1,000 years of Hanoi.
But she's more than just a writer. She's also a woman with a big heart for helping others. She divides her time between Vietnam and Jakarta, Indonesia, where she works with Afghan refugees at the Rashan Learning Center, a community-driven initiative serving asylum seekers. She's also the recipient of the Vietnam Writers Association's Award for Outstanding Contribution to the Advancement of Vietnamese Literature Overseas. Ooh, that was a mouthful. Tonight, we will talk to Quay Mai about her award-winning international best-selling book, the challenge of writing so poetically in a second language, how she feels about bringing the history of Vietnam to the world, and what's next for this extraordinary weaver of words. So without further ado, let's bring Quay Mai on. Hey!
Hi.
Hi.
To listen to your introduction. Wow. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And first of all, I need to say that Friends and Fiction deserves an award for the amazing work you have done in the past year. You have promoted the love for reading and diversity in literature, and your shows are so amazing, and the audience members are just out of this world. Like when I read the post by readers on Friends and Fiction, I feel like I have to be I have to work harder and produce better books and be better because they inspire me. And this, Friends and Fiction has done amazing things for us, for all of us during this year of the pandemic. And I think reading saves lives, as I wrote in The Mountain Sing. If people are willing to read each other and see into the light of other cultures, there would be no war on earth. I mean, reading can do so much for us. So thank you for the amazing work you have done in the past year.
Oh, Quay Mai, what a beautiful thing to say. Thank you so much. I think you're gonna make us cry. Like I feel the tears coming already. Yeah. Thank you, Quay Mai. We're so honored to have you with us. And you know what? We're really honored that you're part of our Friends and Fiction community too. I know you've been wonderfully interactive on the page. And I'm just excited that now our members are gonna get to see this wonderful woman behind the name and understand just how profound it is when you're interacting with them. So Quay Mai, could you start tonight by talking a little bit about The Mountain Sing?
So The Mountain Sing is a journey into Vietnam's 20th century history via the lives of 4 generations of a Vietnamese family. So it's told in the voices of Grandma Diệu Lan and her granddaughter Hương. So like when I was growing up, both of my grandmas had died. So I was really jealous of friends who had grandmas to tell them stories. So I told myself one day I'm going to write a book with a grandmother in it. So this novel, is an honor that I pay to my grandmothers who went through so much of Vietnamese history. And I just wish that they were here, to read the book. But in the Vietnamese spirit, we believe, in the Vietnamese culture, we believe when people die, they don't disappear. They watch over their loved ones. And I'm always thinking that they are the ones who have blessed me on my writing journey and made this book, into a reality.
That's amazing.
Incredible.
I feel like we're all humbled to get to share just a little bit of your story, Quay Mai. Now, you've talked before about how much Vietnamese history remains untold, and I think that's so true. And about the fact that for The Mountain Sing, you interviewed hundreds of people over many years, beginning when you were just a teenager before you realized you'd be writing this book one day. That I just find that so amazing. Could you talk a little bit about why is it that so much of Vietnam's past remains untold? And I wish you would talk to a little bit about the research you did for this book, because it's just astounding, I think, to all of us.
Thank you so much, Mary Kay. So, I was writing in Vietnamese and publishing books in Vietnamese. But when I read literature in English about Vietnam, I was frustrated because, a lot of the books about Vietnam just concentrate on the Vietnam War. And Vietnamese women, normally, if you watch Hollywood movies about Vietnam, we appear as victims. We appear as background to the American stories. We appear as those absent of trauma, absent of agency, the women need to be rescued by men. And I'm like, no, these are not the women I know throughout my life, So I wanted to write beyond that. and present the women whom I know, the women who had to wear the burden of historical events of Vietnam, but who continue to be the pillars of their family, of our society. So, this book is a result of hundreds of thousands of conversations I had in people's kitchen, on the rice fields, on my work trip, because I used to work for UN agencies in fighting against child labor and human trafficking, in communications, in the grassroots areas. So I got to talk to a lot of people. So their stories really inspired me, and and I did a lot of real life interviews, but I backed it up with visits to museums. I went to Laos, Cambodia, because Laos and Cambodia very much affected by the Vietnam War as well. I mean, lots of bombing, and people were sprayed by Agent Orange. So
Yeah.
people are still being disabled, being really sick because of Agent Orange. In many mountainous areas with no medical help and support. So I felt, and also the research involved, talking to veterans who were involved in the war. Like I became friends with so many amazing American veterans who have come back and helped Vietnam. Like there are veterans like Nguyen who have translated Vietnamese literature, and so it's just been amazing journey of learning and of sharing stories of people. And I read a lot of books, by Americans, by the West, by Vietnamese, and I mean, I have the advantage of being able to read in Vietnamese and English, so I have access to a lot of information, fiction and non-fiction. And I think research about the physical locations are so important. So I wrote, during the Vietnam War, hundreds of thousands of northern Vietnamese soldiers walked to the battlefield. It took them months to walk through the battlefield, and they through the battlefield, like through the jungles of Vietnam. And like I went to the jungles at night. I had
Oh my gosh.
to feel how airy it was, and I had goosebumps. I was really scared, but it was instrumental for writing the book. Writing about the part about Uncle Dad, going to the war. And I also I wrote about the Vietnamese traditional medicine in the book, and it's a lot of fun to do the research. Right, I went to in Hanoi. There's street of traditional medicine. If you go there, if you visit Hanoi, you have to go there. That street smells delicious. Before you enter, you smell already different fragrance of different herbs. And I went there. I talked to doctors who practice both traditional and Western medicine, and they told me incredible stories. And of course, I knew about about the Vietnamese traditional medicine growing up, because whenever I was sick, my mom would brew me a pot of traditional medicine. So we had no Western medicine growing up. Really, we relied on ginger, on lemongrass, on on the eucalyptus oil. What's the name?
Eucalyptus. Yeah.
Eucalyptus. So whenever I had a flu, my mom would pick the eucalyptus leaves and fill the whole pot, and she cook it. And when it's really hot, she would give me a blanket, so I would cover myself and put myself over the pot, and it's steam, and then you are really hot and you're sweating, and after that you feel better. So that's the way that we treat ourselves with flus and with So during this pandemic, the Vietnamese community have been saying, drink ginger and lemongrass every day, steam yourself with eucalyptus oil. It will help a lot. I don't know whether it helps, but Vietnam has done so well. We have no community transmission for
That's amazing.
coronavirus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You are so inspiring. I mean, the stories, the things you have lived through, the places you have gone, and the things you have done. And talking to you and then reading your stories, I'm always struck by the way that stories change us. And we talked about this before we even came on with you, how it helps save us, how it changes us in a profound way by letting me, not only see, but feel something that is outside my own experience, something I would never to experience, even if I came to visit right now. And I think The Mountain Sing is really impactful because it's not like learning about a country from a textbook or, somebody giving us the facts or watching a clip. We feel it through the experience of your characters who we come to feel deeply about. So what do you hope this book teaches readers about Vietnamese culture, history, medicine, spirit?
I think I would hope that readers could know about Vietnam beyond a war. We are often known as the Vietnam War, but we are not the war. We are a country rich in culture and heritage, and literary traditions. I wrote in The Mountain Sing that farmers love books, farmers compose poetry, so there is so much to enjoy about Vietnam when you visit or when you read about Vietnam. There's and I wanted to highlight that human beings are similar wherever we are on earth. I mean, wars take place because of the tendency to say, oh, they are different from us. Actually, quite a few US veterans told me that during the training before the Vietnam War, they were told that lives in Asia were cheap. Lives of the Orientals are cheap, not as valuable as lives of the Westerners, because like they were told Vietnam have been fighting so many wars and we've been killing each other. So don't worry, you kill us. Some soldiers told me that. So I think there's always propaganda, about when it comes to wars, and those propaganda still affect the minds of people today, not only in the US but in Vietnam too. In Vietnam, we were told that US soldiers were killing machines, no emotions. That's why I felt the need to translate. So I have translated the work of a lot of American veterans because I wanted to present humanity of the American side. And I think if we see each other in our full human capacity, we will love each other more. There would be less racism, there would be less violence, less war. And I think as the human race, we should do more to contribute to peace and to reduce racism, to reduce violence. It's so sad to me because when I was 8 years old, I was in Vietnam, and one day I was like standing on my village road. I was looking at the bomb craters around me. I was looking at the people who had lost their arms and legs, lost their eyes, and lost the family members. And I told myself as an 8 years old girl, the human race would not be so stupid as to wage another war. Just look at the devastation. We forget so easily. We move on to other wars. You look at now how many wars are taking place, and keep finding excuses to start wars. And I think if we acknowledge each other's culture and each other's humanity, we would love each other much more.
Yeah. If we could, erase the walls of language and culture, and I mean, embrace the differences in our cultures and put some effort into understanding that. Well, speaking of Vietnamese culture, we want to mention something to viewers. Huay Mai has offered to give away a book and a signed book plate and a copy of The Mountain Sing to one lucky winner. To win, all you have to do, they're holding it up. All you have to do is comment on this video on either Facebook or YouTube on our page by tomorrow, Monday, April 26th at 5 p.m. We will randomly draw a winner from among the comments. and it's such a beautiful book, and it's gotten so much praise internationally. Quay Mai, are you going to talk to us about a Vietnamese proverb that's in the novel? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, I love to share about the Vietnamese language and culture through proverbs. So proverbs are actually our ancestors' wisdoms passed on from one generation to the next orally. So it's very poetic. For example, I want to show you some of the proverbs I have used. I have used many proverbs in the magazine. So I like to you are my friends, you are my great friends.
Yeah.
So I love to show you how to say the proverb. So
Okay.
this proverb, when I was growing up, sometimes because my two brothers and I were naughty, and sometimes father would lose his patience, and my mom would say mưa dầm thấm lâu, soft and persistent rain penetrates the earth better than a storm.
Ooh, I love
I
that.
like that.
So he got like, okay, so he's like more patient with us. So this is mưa dầm
Mưa dầm
thấm lâu. Mưa dầm thấm lâu.
Woo dum
Tom Lau.
lao.
Mua dam tam lao.
Yeah. So the Z, the D you pronounce like a Z. Mưa dầm thấm lâu.
Mưa dầm
Tom
lao.
Lau.
Mua dam tam lao.
Mưa dầm Tom Lau.
Yes, excellent. So
That's awesome.
Soft and persistent rain penetrates the earth better than a storm. So this one, if I, this next proverb is also a part of my life. If I go back to, if I go home and had a bad day, my mom would say, trong cái rủi có cái may. Good luck hides inside bad luck.
I love
that.
Yeah, I mean, Friends and Fiction is some luck that came out of the pandemic, right? I mean, out of it and created Friends and Fiction. So this means, can you say trong cái rủi có cái may.
Trong cái rủi có cái may.
Excellent.
That was amazing, Mary Kay. That was awesome.
So Vietnamese is full of tonal diacritics. So traditionally, when Vietnamese language is published as part of the Western text of the English text, it's stripped of the diacritics, right? And I fought against that. I told my publisher I wanted to protect the complexity of the Vietnamese language, and by reading the Mountain Sing, you emerge into our language. You accept the language for what it is. I don't change it to please the ears and eyes of Western readers. So that's why you see the authentic Vietnamese language in the Mountain Sing with all the tonal marks. So rủi có cái may means good luck hides inside bad luck.
I love that so much.
Yeah. So this third proverb, you don't have to say it because it's long, but it applies so much to books. Đi một ngày đàn, học một sàng khôn. A day of traveling earns a basket full of wisdom.
Oh, wow.
That's incredible.
So each book is like, a traveling experience. Yes. We earn a basket full of wisdom whenever we read a book, So reading is so, and reading is entertaining, but reading is also educational, right?
Yeah.
And I like basket full of wisdom.
I love that.
That's and just, so we can't, we can't travel to Vietnam right now, or to Jakarta where you are. But we can do it virtually. And so good luck did hide inside the bad luck.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, Patti mentioned about the basketful. It took me months to translate this proverb.
Wow.
Wanted to protect the essence of the Vietnamese imagery in it,
Right.
because so I wanted to capture the word basketful, because we work with baskets, we measure everything with bamboo baskets in Vietnam.
Oh,
So that's why the work of translating the proverbs took me months, and it
oh
took
my
me
gosh.
7 years to write this book, because because Vietnamese language and culture has suffered so much loss throughout
Yeah.
our history of being colonized. I mean, before the Vietnam War, we were like colonized by the French for more than 100 years. We
Right.
were dominated by the Chinese, the Mongolian, and the Japanese invaded Vietnam as well. So we suffered so much loss. So I wanted to undo some of the loss,
Yeah.
return the colors and complexity of our language in the text, which is embedded in this book in English.
That's a
Gosh,
beautiful thought.
it really is. And gosh, I feel like you're filling our baskets full of wisdom tonight, Quay
Yes,
Mai.
Mhm.
This is just beautiful.
Well, I
So
think it's interesting, real quick, how
yeah.
history of the people and the land
Yeah.
is hidden in the language, the way they use
So
the words,
true.
right? It's like tucked in there. So you lose the language, you lose some of the history and the wisdom of people.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
Exactly, the proverb "mưa dầm thấm lâu," soft and persistent rain penetrates the earth better than a storm. This is a wisdom of farmers, right? Only
Yeah.
who work with the land, or gardeners who love planting, and working with the soil, would come up with that proverb. And I wanted to write this book to call on the younger generations of Vietnam to preserve, our cultural traditions. Because nowadays people don't sing lullabies as much. We still speak in proverb, but there are still so many things that we leave behind, and that's a
Yeah.
sad reality.
And
Yeah.
that's such a good point. Well, Quay Mai, since I first met you, I've been so fascinated by the idea of you writing a novel in a language that was not, in fact, your first language. I think it's hard enough to achieve the kind of poetic lyricism you achieve in this book in a language you're entirely comfortable with, but it must be just an entirely different thing to write so beautifully in a language that you didn't learn until a little bit later in your life. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you decided to write The Mountain Sing in English and a bit about what that process was like for you?
So thank you, Christine, for this great question. I mean, I was working as a translator for many years. So, I was translating Vietnamese poetry because I wanted international readers to know about Vietnam more than a war. So then I was thinking, not many people read poetry, so I had to translate a novel. So I was looking at a novel, and I didn't really find something that I really love. I mean, and then I told myself, I have to write this book instead of
Wow.
translating someone else.
Yeah.
So I had to write myself this book. So I started, learning English, much more reading, and until today, I have a notebook full of new words.
Wow.
So,
Nice.
so for example, when I look read Kristen's the books of lost names, there were new words that I like. Oh, okay, these are excellent
Oh,
words.
that's awesome.
I wrote it down, and
Love
and
it.
and the translations, and so I did my master's and PhD, to understand, like to learn the art of fiction writing in English. And then, but when I started writing this book, when I was doing my master degree, I thought I was crazy, because I mean, I wanted to express the complex thoughts in English and also weave the Vietnamese traditions into it.
Yeah.
So I had the dictionary next to me.
Oh, wow.
I wrote this book with the dictionary, and there were many times I was asking myself, would the readers understand this? But I think in the end, I wrote this book for myself first, to understand the history of my family, the history of my
Yeah.
community history of Vietnam, a lot of it came from real life experiences. For example, my grandpa was killed in the land reform, and my grandmother died because of the great hunger, where 2 million Vietnamese perished under the French and the Japanese occupation of Vietnam. And I felt compelled to write this book. And I wanted to write it the authentic Vietnamese way. My characters, I expressed this book in English, but my characters were talking to me in Vietnamese and acting the way Vietnamese do.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, I mean,
Wow.
I wrote to reclaim Vietnamese space in literature in English, because tens of thousands of books have been written about Vietnam, right? But hardly any book have been written in English, have been published from Vietnamese Vietnamese
Yeah.
citizens. It's mostly of the West, putting themselves in the center, and Vietnamese, we just act as backgrounds to the Western stories. But now I wanted to reclaim our space in literature and present, stories from people from inside Vietnam, the people who have so much to share with the world. Because if you learn the lessons of Vietnam, you could apply those lessons to so many countries around the world.
So true. Absolutely. Oh, Quay Maya,
And
that's
what a
so
time! What a
beautiful.
time! It seems like now and today is the time when people from diverse cultures can reclaim their culture and say to other people, "This is not me refusing to learn your culture. This is me explaining my culture to you and hoping that you will understand me, so we can understand each other
Yeah.
and communicate."
Exactly. And like, the world is so diverse, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so much. That's why I love reading books. In reading your books, I get to travel to places and make friends with people. And I think that's the power of fiction, right? We,
Yeah.
like, the characters, they leave an imprint onto our mind. That's why they make the stories and the facts more memorable, because
Right.
we are connected to the characters in the real sense. They become a part of our life.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
I was I was writing in my second book, which I'm working on. I have a phrase in that book: the room is silent as the book which has never been read. And I think
Ooh, I love that.
a book is read
Awesome.
alive, right? This
Yeah.
and the act of reading makes literature alive, and that's the beauty of it. There's so many versions of a book depending on the reader's experiences. That's why I love readers, because their active participation makes
Yes.
literature alive.
Right.
Wow. You are so, I'm going to say it again. You're so inspiring.
I
So,
know.
well, I mean, to think that I need to think of a word, what I want to express, and then double check the dictionary, it would slow the story, like it would slow me down to pay more attention. It seems
Yeah,
like
that's
it's helping
true.
you to pay more attention, like to
Yeah.
every single word you're putting down. So there's a question that we like to ask all of our guests. And I know we cannot wait to hear your answer because of everything you've described. But in your upbringing, in your childhood, which is hard for us to even imagine, and in your household, what were the values for you then around reading and writing?
um, Reading saved us. At 6 years old, I moved from North to South Vietnam, and Vietnam had just been divided by the war. So we were faced with a lot of discrimination. I was bullied at school and in my neighborhood.
Oh,
And
wow.
I made friends via books, the books that enabled me to be surrounded by imagination, and I was able to escape the poverty that we had. I mean, we were starving. It was so difficult at the time, and I don't think I would have been able to become the person I am today without books.
Wow.
Books we need to travel to be open to other people's experiences. And like my parents were both farmers and teachers, and they had so little money, but they saved and they bought books for us, for three of their children. And my father, he built a bookshelf himself from them. And I still remember, and because we had so few books. We had, I had no access to a library at that time. There was no library in my town. So, I borrowed books, but for the few books that we own, I read them so often that the covers fell out. So my father made, he used the hard carton to make the hard covers for the books, and they are still in my parents' home today.
Oh, wow.
And when I was little, I loved reading so much, and I loved listening to stories. And I told myself I wanted to become a writer. So that was my dream when I was so little. But I had to do so many other things to earn my living, and I could only become a writer when I was 33. So now I look up to you, all of you, and at the number of best-selling books you have written, and I'm like, you are my inspiration. I need to be as even as hardworking as you.
Oh
No,
my
you're
gosh.
our inspiration.
You're our inspiration, Quay Mai. I feel like I'm on the verge of tears this entire conversation. It's so inspiring. Well, just to think of some of the odds you've overcome and the things you've done, and I just, you know what? I wish it could just be a world full of Quay Mais, because you just have such a beautiful heart and a beautiful way of seeing things. And I hope everybody gets to watch this interview, because I just feel like it'll change everyone's feelings about reading and connecting with each other. Quay Mai, you're just incredible. I'm so happy that you're joining us tonight. So thank you so much. Quay Mai, would you stick around for another minute? We have just a few announcements, and then we have one final question for you before we go. And then I wish we could do like the Quay Mai series and have her on every Sunday and ask her more, because this is so good. But Mary Kay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Supporting indie booksellers is one way to keep communities up and running. And just heard Quay Mai talk about how the incredible difference books made in her life. So this week, we want to talk about how that's still important to all of us. This week, Booktown in Manasquan, New Jersey, could use your support. And hey, in exchange, you get 10% off Quay Mai's beautiful book, The Mountains Sing, Kristy Woodson Harvey's brand new Under the Southern Sky, and any of our new and upcoming releases. Use code FRIENDS, all caps, to get that discount.
We also want to take a moment to thank our partner, Mama Geraldine's. Whether you love the delectable cheese straws or even the gluten-free ones like me, or the melt in your mouth cookies, or like all of us, you love both, you'll be happy to pick up a Mama G's bundle. Remember, you can get 20% off orders on their website, mamageraldines.com, and Geraldines is with a G, with code FAB5. We also always want to thank our partner, Page One Books, where you can also use that same code to get 10% off your first subscription box. They have great personalized service where you can fill out your book preferences, likes, dislikes, and they send you a hand-picked book each month. You can find out more at pageonebooks.com.
All right, Quay Mai, you are up one more time. Before we go tonight, we would love to hear a writing tip from you. And I have the feeling that yours is going to be just as extraordinary as you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Writing tip. Oh, I have so many writing tips. I think the first would be write the book that you want to read. Because you have to be alone with your characters, with your story. You have to do hundreds of drafts. So if you're not passionate, if you are not compelled, then it feels like work. But actually, writing should feel like fun, right?
Yeah.
Fun in our creativity, our creativity will fly. So I always, when I start writing a book, I am always asking myself, do I write it because I think it will sell? Then I was like, no, I don't want to write a book because I because I think it will sound. No, I want to write something which is important to me, which is compelling to me, which is fascinating to me, which is a learning process for me. Because like when you write a book with your research, you learn so much, and you enrich your life with the book. So with writing, as with any profession, if you have fun, if you love it, then it's incredible experience. So I've been really lucky that I've been writing about things that I love. So I hope any writer out there, aspiring writer out there who's watching us, can find the stories that only you can tell, the way you can tell, because there are always so many writers out there. But I think the challenge is to make our voice unique, and that's I mean, if you have the passion, your energy, your creative energy, you can make that leap. You can create that work.
Kwei Mai, that was a great tip. And we cannot thank you enough. This was a beautiful, inspiring evening. I mean, you're just a beautiful soul, and we're just so honored to have been in your presence tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. And to everybody out there, don't forget to pick up The Mountain Sing, which will move you. It will inspire you, and it will make you see the history and the culture of Vietnam through new eyes. Kwei Mai, thank you so much for your beautiful book. Thank you so much for your beautiful words. And thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
I need to say that this show, Friends and Fiction, should deserve an award. It will come soon. And really, if you know awards that that acknowledges the amazing work by these 5 authors, by their production team, and by the active contribution of partners, of supporters, of readers nominated for this award. It's amazing.
We just want the Kwei Mai Award. That's all.
We just want your approval.
The Kwei Mai Award. That's it.
You have my gold medal already. I was telling my family last night about this show, and I said, I was like, I'm going to Hollywood meeting, the whom I really admire. I mean, I love your work, and to be talking with you and sharing my story has been just incredible. You are really kind and generous. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kwei Mai. Good night.
We're humbled. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kwei Mai. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to all of you out there, thank you so much for joining us tonight for this special Behind the Books bonus episode of Friends and Fiction. That was incredible, wasn't it?
Gosh,
I'm so moved. I want to be a better person.
I can't stop with the chill. I just feel moved.
I know.
That's the right word. Yeah.
It was so great. I think I'm going to have to go back and watch this episode again just to pick up all of her pieces of wisdom and inspiration. It makes me want to be a better writer. So, all right, and a better person. She's just phenomenal, huh? Yeah. All right. Before I start sobbing on air, thank you, everyone. We will see you Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern for a very special evening with New York Times bestselling author Chris Bojelian. See you then. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Thank you for tuning in. Join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And please subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here. Good night.